Hello, a very good afternoon and welcome to a sun-drenched TT Circuit Assen in the Netherlands ahead of round 11 of the MotoGP World Championship. Jack Appleyard and Simon Crafar with you, and because we're at the halfway point of the season, 10 races down, 10 races to go, we're going to look at the winners and losers of the opening half of the season. Who has managed to go ahead of the expectations that myself and Simon were setting at pre-season testing when we were there, which feels a long time ago now, in Indonesia and Malaysia. And who of those, whether it be riders or factories, have maybe not achieved what they were hoping to? Before we get into that though, Simon, another opportunity just to remind you guys at home that if you haven't yet, make sure you check out the MotoGP fan survey. We need your thoughts, we need your opinion to try and improve our sport. So if you haven't done it yet, it will only take 10 minutes of your time. Head to MotoGP.com or any of MotoGP's social channels and you'll be able to find it really easily there. Fill it in, give us your thoughts, give us your opinion, and it will be much appreciated.
Apparently there was a glitch. I got a couple of messages about it and we've passed them on, so hopefully it's fixed now.
Yeah, apparently too many people were saying we need more Simon Crafar in the comments at the end, so we've had to put those ones to one side because they clearly didn't know what they were talking about. But, sorry mate, we'll move on. So, of course, last time out, just 7 days ago, or 4 days ago now, 5 days ago, last Sunday at the German Grand Prix in the Sachsenring. It's that part of the season where we're all ready for a rest. Factory Yamaha's Fabio Quartararo took a dominant victory to eke out his championship lead to now 34 points, Simon. If we're talking winners at this opening half of the season, there's no better man to start with than Fabio Quartararo. He has been incredible so far.
He's been on a level above and making so few mistakes. Well, you know, no biggies in a race like most other people. And he's been a level above, and that's just not my words. I've had a couple of people from teams who are fighting against Fabio tell me that. So it's the general consensus is Fabio has been on another level this season so far. And
that was proved at the Sachsenring. We're seeing footage of that now. This was a vital overtake. He knew he had to bounce back and get ahead of Pecco Bagnaia as quickly as possible, and that's what he did. In the end, taking the win by over 6 seconds. And as we're going to with a lot of factories in comparison to riders, although Fabio is in the winners column, Yamaha, you would have to say, are in the losers column at the moment, looking at what their other riders are able to do on that M1, which, before we get onto that, just proves the point even further of what a remarkable job Fabio is able to do at the moment.
I couldn't have put it better. That's exactly how I feel. But also, the Yamaha's obviously got a good front end, or at least Fabio thinks it has. I mean, I spoke to a few of the others. They've got complaints on exit, rear grip. But I know, for example, Darren likes the front end as well. And I think it's harsh to say Yamaha are like losers in the loser column because they're leading the championship. I think the bike is a good all-round package. Fabio doesn't complain about the exit grip. The others mostly do. So I tend to agree with you. If they have managed to find over this next winter period for next year the speed, I think they're going to have a really good package. Maybe not for everyone, but the bike is only lacking that, in Fabio's opinion, you know, a little bit of speed, and at least they know what it is. Because there's a couple of other manufacturers that don't know what the problem is. That must be more scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at this weekend in particular, here at the TT Circuit Assen, Fabio would have to be the favourite going into it. Such a great track record here. Never been off the podium in all of his Premier Class visits. The only possible thing that might get in his way is the weather. The forecast looking a little bit shaky at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see whether it's wet or dry on Sunday. We've spoken there about Fabio as being a winner. You'd have to say, especially what we saw last time out in Germany, that unfortunately Pecco Bagnaia hasn't reached the expectations that he himself has set at the end of last season. Yeah. A very, very costly crash in the Sachsenring means that his title chances, you would have to say, unfortunately, are all but over.
With hindsight and looking at, well, listening to all of the debriefs, looking at the crash a few times over, the race, I have to say that I think Pecco, I mean, he started the year not doing what he wanted to do. You know, he wasn't comfy on the bike, and I don't think it was all his fault, you know.
Yeah.
He got comfy, and then the old Pecco was back, you know, the one from the end of last season, super fast. He was my pick for the race win. But I think, like I said, after all of re-evaluating everything, I think he was just plain outsmarted by Fabio. You know, that's my gut feeling, is Fabio ran the medium and pushed so hard through the right-handers. Pecco tried to stay with him and on a harder tyre and got caught out. But I just put it down to Fabio being clever, you know. I really do. I think 23 years old, and he's not falling off it, touch wood, putting it together and doing some really clever things and clever choices, backing his gut feelings for using the medium and then making it work, going faster than everyone could through the rights and pushing his competition to the limit until they fell.
And it is Marc Marquez-esque, and I really don't like saying that about Fabio because he's doing it in his own style, but it's what we've become used to, the manner in which Marc Marquez was able to dominate races, was able to get the edge mentally over his rivals as well, and it feels like that's what Fabio has got at the moment with Pecco.
Well, the last thing I would like to say about Fabio is he is, like I said, from 18 months ago, like I said, he's only 23 years old, and you can see how his confidence is building. He's making clever decisions. He's not, when he loses his rag, he kind of gets it out and then focuses straight back on the job, keeps it all together in the box. He's doing an amazing job, you know. It's clear for everyone to see.
And looking at Ducati as a factory then, when we're talking whether to put them in that winners or losers column, I feel that they're probably the most difficult one to judge because you look at it from one side and they've had so much success, a handful of race winners. Just last week, they had both Johann Zarco and Jack Miller on the podium. Mm-hmm. All 8 of their riders at some point throughout this past 10 races have been competitive, but it doesn't look like they've got any one of those 8 riders able to compete for the championship. Johann Zarco, 3rd in the standings at the moment, but he's 61 points adrift.
It is what I mentioned in a much earlier after the flag when I first saw this picture coming clear that, you know, they've got the machine again. Ducati must be disappointed, you know, really, because for the second year in a row, they do have arguably the best machine, you know. The Aprilia's right on its heels, you know. But they are not. They're 3rd in the championship and 60-odd points down with Johann Zarco, who's doing a great job.
Yeah.
But surely they expected much more, you know. So I can imagine them being very disappointed, you know, because they've got the machine to do it. Like I mentioned earlier, have they got the rider to do it? You know, didn't make everyone happy, but it's coming true.
No, it has. At the moment, all you have to do is look at the championship picture. And obviously, every rider will say they've had misfortune here and there, but it's those standings that tell the truth. Yep. You know, you can't look further than that.
And I've got to say that, you know how now we know, Paolo Ciabatti said, we've got Enea Bastianini and Martin to choose from for this factory ride.
Yeah.
And he's saying it to me, so the public, the press, the riders. I don't know if I completely agree with that because riders hate being beaten by each other anyway, especially on the same machine. They hate it. And if right now they've just loaded a bunch more pressure on the shoulders of Martin and Bastianini. I mean, that, to me, that could be a recipe for disaster. When you throw that amount of pressure, the riders down to what you do in the next few races, you know.
It's tough for them, and especially when you take...
Not just tough, a little bit dangerous. You know?
And when you take into consideration the fact that both of those riders are only in their 2nd Premier Class seasons. Yep. They've only been riding MotoGP bikes for 1.5 seasons now. They're both fairly young in their career, so it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, you said it exactly how I feel. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Let's move next on to Aprilia then, because I feel, Simon, that this is our only rider-manufacturer combo that we can quite confidently say go into the winners category. Aleix Espargaro, despite missing out on the podium last time out, was again consistent, 4th place. He'll be happy with that, although he has seen Fabio extend his championship lead out further. But even more so, especially in these last 2 Grand Prix, Maverick Viñales has really started to showcase the form that everyone was hoping to see from him. I think the most important thing for Maverick was those opening 5 laps.
Bang on.
He qualified relatively well, put himself in a strongish position, but then he went forward at the start and was able to be competitive until, unfortunately, the ride height device had some issues with it. So Aprilia will be super happy with Maverick in particular, his progress.
Yeah, I mean, it turns out that in the race, Aleix had a front vibration, you know, and couldn't carry the corner speed in some of the turns where he was the strongest, you know, where he had really good pace. I think Aleix is doing an amazing job. Again, with this problem, he didn't fall off it, you know, some guys would.
Yeah.
He brought it home, got good points in 4th. He'd be disappointed because he had the pace for 2nd.
You could say that even he himself would have fallen off in previous years.
Yeah,
potentially.
Exactly. I mean, but you can't say enough what an awesome job Aleix is doing, and he's surprised everybody and me as well. I'm first to put my hand up. He hadn't had a podium in 10 years riding MotoGP, roughly, and his first one next year. I never thought he could get himself to this level, and it's a serious level he's at now, and making really good decisions, consistency, and that's why he's 2nd in the championship, and he fully deserves it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only blot on Aleix's copybook is the fact that, unfortunately, he's unable to make it for the press conference. He slightly late after some technical difficulties with his flight. I think that's the only thing that's gone wrong for him in the opening half of 2022.
Yeah, he was keeping an eye out for a checkered flag, but he stayed on, got some points. Hey, one more thing before we move on from Aprilia is those boys got to be proud. They can be genuinely proud of themselves. You know, they keep stepping forward with that bike. Yeah, Maverick had a ride height problem in the race. I have checked on that. It was a part failure in the device itself, not a switch turning on or something. But their machine, like I've been saying all year, the riders are looking at it. You know, it's a good bike, and they are really in the championship fight. They can pat themselves on the back. Awesome job.
Yeah, there's a lot of riders wanting to be on that Aprilia RSGP next year. Of course, Razlan Razali's RNF squad will be moving over to the Noali squad with recent rumours within the paddock. You can take them with a pinch of salt because we are in the midst of silly season, but Miguel Oliveira and Raul Fernandez, 2 of the names that have been linked with that squad of late.
Yeah, I mean, all of the rookies are linked with it, you know, from this year. Yeah. And probably Rins and Oliveira the biggest name for the other one. Let's see what happens. Yeah. They're happy to wait, and I imagined by waiting the riders get cheaper. There's 2 seats. It's not a good position for the riders to be in. 2 seats, too little to keep everyone on bikes. So anyway, yeah, Razlan has the best position.
He does right now with 2 seats on plum rides, you would have to say, at the moment. And just before we move on from Aprilia, have to say, keep your eye on Maverick Viñales this weekend. Assen, by far, his favourite circuit, arguably up there with Phillip Island. Silverstone as well, yep. But this is...
the flowing ones he's really strong at.
You would have to say the litmus test for Viñales. If he's competitive this weekend, as Aprilia are hoping, then I think we can officially say that he's arrived. He's competitive with the bike.
He showed hunger in Sachsenring for the first time for me, that because those early laps, qualifying in the early laps is where you need to really want it, because it's a bit dangerous, you know, elbows out, and he showed he did, so hope he keeps it up.
Next up, Suzuki. It's obviously been a turbulent 2022 for them, with the unfortunate news that we might not see them on the Premier Class grid next year. Ever since that news came out, it's been a real disaster for them on track, because both Rins and Mir have failed to finish. I think it's now 3 races since that announcement, and as a result, you would have to say that Joan, who was so used to being Mr. Consistent out there, finding it inside the top 5 in pretty much every race last season, bar a few copybook blots. But unfortunately, it's not gone his way this year at all.
No. If you, for example, start, with Joan, since we got him on screen, I still haven't given up on Joan at all.
No.
Like I've said in the commentary, I believe Suzuki have changed the bike from last year, and it doesn't suit Joan. It doesn't affect Alex Rins, but they ride in a different position on the bike, and I think that's what it is, a weight distribution change. Rins has been fantastic, and I feel so sorry for him about that wrist. And he still got on the bike and was fast. The guy is riding brilliantly this year.
Yeah.
Really, really good. So I don't think you can say Alex is having a bad time. He was down for a podium for me when he got taken out at turn 1, and he's been strong all year. And if you look on the other side of the garage, Joanne, don't give up on him. He's still there. It's just the changes to the bike didn't suit him, and they've just figured out what it is or how to get around it at the last event. And then he had a vibration problem in qualifying, put him so far back, it kind of destroyed his race, And what I'm saying is, I think he's back. They've found the direction, and we'll see him back from here.
It'll be interesting to see. Keep your eye on the Suzuki boys. Alex Rins is set to ride this weekend after withdrawing from the German Grand Prix. He'll be checked after FP 1 to see what the pain levels are like. But hopefully we can see him in full flow. We are running out of time, but let's just cover, the two manufacturers that it goes without saying that will be most unhappy with what they've been able to achieve so far this year are Honda and KTM. But one rider out of that group in particular that I want to mention is Brad Binder, because I think it took everyone by surprise when we looked at the championship standings and saw he was 5th. You compare that to the Saturday championship as such, the BMW M Award, where points are awarded for, in the same manner as what they are in the race, for where you finish on the grid. He's 17th in that standings.
That tells the story perfectly.
It is. He's riding unbelievably.
I think what it shows is they can't get that one lap out of the bike. For whatever reason, they can't put the soft tyres on and get that last bit that their opposition can, especially Ducati. So when it comes to race pace, they're not far off,
Yeah.
Which is a pat on the back. They're not far off in race pace. They are miles away in qualifying. And it must be a low point Saturday, and then, Brad pulls something out of the box, for Sunday. Amazing, like he does every time. I think Miguel is still there, He's a good rider. He's just, like I said in commentary, he's more sensitive, But he's fast. Don't write him off for the future, especially if they sort that bike out.
Absolutely, and if the wet weather does come this weekend, and both of them will be competitive. Just finally, on Honda, last weekend, one to forget, the first time in 40 years that a Honda has failed to finish inside the points of a Premier Class race. There were extenuating circumstances, with Paul suffering from injury, Taka Nakagami crashing out, Alex Marquez having an issue with his ride height device, but Stefan Bradl, the test rider, very rarely speaks out of turn, and he was bitterly disappointed on Sunday with the airflow of the Honda, meaning that it was burning him on the bike. He was unable to hold the brake lever. There were photos on his Instagram of burns on his right foot. It's a really difficult moment for Honda.
With all of the other manufacturers, no matter how things are going, you can say something positive,
Yeah.
And all I can think to say positive about the Honda is the engine's fast, But they've got no front feel, which is causing all the riders to fall off. Lack of turning, which leads to lack of acceleration, grip off the turn. Like, they're in a bad spot, and I don't know if they know how to fix it either. So I genuinely feel sorry for them, because especially the riders, we can't even see what the riders are capable of. That's what the position they're in the moment.
And the recent rumours with regards to the rider market would tell you that it's going to be all change at Honda next year. It could be up to 3 different riders on RC213Vs in 2023. Marc Marquez will, of course, stay, but it's expected Pol Espargaro will leave. Alex Marquez, recent rumours linking him with a move away. Taka Nakagami is expected to leave as well. So how on earth do you develop a bike when the only man that's going to be on it next year isn't even here at the moment? It's
a really good point.
Unbelievable situation that they find themselves in.
A really good point. Development-wise, I agree with you. They're going to need, I'm pretty sure this is why Mark has gone early to try and fix his arm and be strong for the end of the season, to get some direction on the bike. And by then, at the end of the season and testing that, they'll have their other weapon on the other side of the garage, alongside Mark. So hopefully they can figure it out before then. The rumours are Juan Mir.
Yep.
Let's see what happens. But yeah, and it looks like a complete change at LCR, doesn't it?
It does. It looks like both Taka Nakagami and Alex Marquez may well be leaving Lucio Cecchinello's squad. Just finally, Simon, then let's have a look at the names people need to be aware of this weekend in both the wet and the dry. We've mentioned Fabio Quartararo and Maverick Vinales, who of course finished first and second last year. When you think about the wet, Jack Miller has had success right here, his first ever MotoGP win in the wet. Are there any other names that spring to mind that people should be keeping a close eye on?
Yeah, the Yamahas have a tougher time still, don't they, with the wet conditions, although this circuit has higher grip level than average, in damp conditions. So it's difficult to write Fabio off because of that. But the Ducatis are really strong in damp conditions, so you've got to look at all of their riders. Johan Zarco, awesome in the wet. But I'm not going to try and predict. Suzuki should be strong here as well because it's a flowing track rather than a pure acceleration one. I'm not going to try and guess because I tell you what, Aleix is going to be strong here. Yeah, I really think that. So I'm not going to predict because you just can't at MotoGP at the moment.
No problem. Well, there we go. Lots of riders to keep their eye on in the press conference coming up shortly. It is a slightly smaller press conference than what we're used to. It's Vive la France here in the press conference room with France's top two Premier Class riders, Fabio Quartararo and Johan Zarco, speaking with Matt Burr. We'll hand over to him for the press conference ahead of round 11 of the MotoGP World Championship, the Motul TT Assen.